trying to measure the partition coefficient of different dyes in water and octanol, and it looks like the dye prefers to go into the octanol, which is not really what I expected, but good to know.
This is a rhodamine dye derivative. When acid hits it, it opens up the ring in the structure, which makes it fluoresce pink.
I like to take students young, and so many of my students, not all of them, but many start as freshmen or sophomores. And clearly there's a long trainee period then where they need to learn what are the techniques we use in lab, how do I physically use my hands in lab. But then the other part of that is how do I understand the science of what I'm doing, and those two things sort of develop almost independently at first. Like you might know how to do an experiment long before you actually understand what you're really doing. But eventually that all comes together, and if they've started young, by the time they're juniors or seniors, they can really contribute not just to actually physically carrying out the research, but to designing the experiments, interpreting the results, and all that sort of thing.
The good thing about fluorescence is that it's really, really, really sensitive, so I can get mercury detection at the part per billion level. So this really high peak means there's a lot of dye. Down here there's less and less dye in the solution.
We're on the way to figuring out if different derivatives, so different functional groups, change the rate of the ring opening reaction and the pH at which it opens up.
I'm just a freshman, so I hang out and follow her around and clean things mostly.
You're going to inherit this project in a sense, if all goes well?
Yeah, that's the theory anyway.
If it doesn't work, you're going to let her know?
Probably. Call her. Courtney. Get it. It's happening.
I'm scared of sending somebody off to grad school who doesn't really understand what research is all about, because you're about to sign away 4 or 5 years of your life, and you don't even know if you like doing research. So I think it's really critical for students to get a feel for whether or not they enjoy it, and even the students who aren't headed for grad school. Research still gives them a chance to really get deeply into a field in a way that you just don't in the classroom. It's such a new and different thing to go to where the answers aren't known.
I want to be an anesthesiologist, which is not necessarily a core application of what I'm doing right now, but organic chemistry is something that I'm really interested in.
I'm more interested in kind of the biological, relevance. I wrote a proposal last week for HHMI funding, that Howard Hughes Medical Institute, and crossing my fingers about that.
What we do in my lab, I'm a physical organic chemist. That means I'm studying physical properties of organic molecules, but I have to make my organic molecules first. And so that means that paper production is a little slower in my field than it might be in some, because first we have to make what we're going to study, and that alone is not enough to publish. And then we have to study it, learn what it's doing. So it averages out for my lab to be about 1 paper a year, typically, and those all have undergraduate co-authors on them.
Is the professor awesome?
Yeah, she's awesome. She let me come into this lab and she kind of just said, all right, solve this problem, do it. So she's there to guide.
It seems like it can be a dense subject at times, but she makes it fun and entertaining for the students as well.
She's just always helpful, always so open.
We have a few little fun things around the lab just for, those moments. Actually, there was only one slinky originally, and then someone else, I think the yellow one, appeared, and then they had a child, which was this one, because you can see it's yellow and it's metal. So these things happen in my lab sometimes, and I think at some point the slinkies were kidnapped. No one's around here was here when that happened. But I think the slinkies were kidnapped once from a neighboring lab, and we had to rescue them. So